5, Ohana.
And we are on Ohana, ladies and gentlemen, and here in the top left-hand corner, we have our red ZvT player from KenZy Esports Club. It is...
KenZy Vortix.
And he is up 1-0 at the moment, but in deep concentration. He still has an uphill battle in front of him. It is his brother's map choice, and here he is down at the bottom right. It's our blue Terran player, also from KenZy Esports Club.
KenZy Lucifron.
We find ourselves on Ohana. We find the brothers once again locked in battle, as they do every tournament they enter into. And Lucifron is down 0-1 at the moment.
Yes, he is. Lucifron has been traveling a lot. He's had a very busy tournament season. He was at the BWC in Shanghai, 17, 18 November. Then he went to IEM Singapore, played the open bracket, came through it, even though he took a loss against Mafia, the Australian ZvT player. Then he made it into the groups. He was with with Slivko, myself, and Oz. And actually, he also passed that group. It was Oz, surprisingly, who was eliminated in that group. So Lucifron has been going from tournament to tournament. Now he's here at the IPL 5. You could say that he hasn't had time to refresh his strategies. So what becomes really important is that you're able to think both on the fly and think literally on the fly when you're in the plane.
This has been a very exhausting month, to say the least, in terms of travel for a lot of players. You've experienced it yourself, I must say. Well, and by the way, congratulations on your performance at IEM Singapore. So you sit there with this nice smirk on your face. I love it. We have a 1-Rax expand again here for Lucifron, back on Vortix's side. Nothing different. I wouldn't expect anything out of these guys, to be honest. Vortix is going to open up with a lot of queens, prioritize his creep spread, make sure that he can defend early with those evolution chambers at the front wall against that Hellion play. I'm projecting a little bit too far into the future, but again, I don't expect any real surprises right now.
Yeah. Well, this map, as I said, I want to see if he's going to go for those quick mutalists. I saw that from NMrUUG against a Terran player in, I believe, the OSL when I was casting it. It can work out really well if, I think it was against Marine King maybe. It can work out really well if the Terran tries to play kind of like how Lucifron played last game. A lot of Hellions, a lot of Banshees, kind of skipping that bunker, marine defense kind of thing, and then going straight for Thors and a third. This is a closer contact map than Daybreak. It's kind of like a mini Daybreak, so some of the things that you can get away with on Daybreak may not necessarily be possible on Ohana.
Well, we'll see if that's going to be the case. You know, Vortix is a guy who can throw out a couple of different strategies. He can also throw in some heavy aggression against you, too. He's very good in a best of, any length best of, whether it's a best of 3 or a longer one, best of 9, something like that, in being able to throw in some quick aggression just to keep your opponent a bit thrown off. We saw that in the Go World Championship qualifiers that we were casting for IPL. So
yeah, very good point. Vortix in a best of 5 against Protoss, or even a best of 3, will throw in now and then also a 1-base 7 Roach Rush. It's kind of like the first build you learn when you're in Platinum and you want to go to Diamond. It can take you very far.
You know how many gold players are out there like, I tried to learn that, it's still not getting me to Platinum. Let's see here, though, is a good scout from Lucifron to make sure that there's no super quick third that's popping out. Lucifron's not usually the kind of player who wants to go for that, but some ZvT players have been messing around with a lot faster third bases and stuff like that, being a bit more economically greedy. But otherwise, no real surprises popping out of both our players so far. Lucifron just moving up and grabbing that starport once again with a tech lab.
I've never really seen that, going out with 3 Marines to apply some, well, can we call it pressure or drone denial? 3 Marines. I have seen sometimes where a Terran takes some Marines and an SCV and just builds a bunker at the third or near the third, just to provide some buffer as their Hellions and Banshees are about to come in. This is kind of cool, and it's something that when you're not very familiar with StarCraft, or when you're just new to it, you would say, how can you do that? You move with 3 Marines, your opponent's going to make links and kill him. But it's especially against pro gamers who try to cut as many corners as possible that this kind of thing can be really good. There we go, he killed an Overlord.
It just killed an Overlord. It actually just paid for itself. That's remarkable. Now, I have heard some players that have talked about, you know, the 5 Marines right at the beginning because it's enough to overwhelm 1 Queen, and then you're forced to make a few Zerglings, and it can end up costing you some resources. But 3, yeah, not so much. But it ends up working out for Lucifron in the end. He's actually retreated with a couple of those back to the Xel'Naga Tower, and no, actually, I think he does still have those in the group up to the right. That's just the Hellions tanks that are sitting there now. But of course, Vortix is being very diligent about walling off his natural, and he's not going to take any damage from those Hellions right away.
Yeah, so we can already see how this is so different from Daybreak, where Vortix took like a very early third with almost no defenses to speak of, really. And then after the fact came with a round of 20 Zerglings and some Queens. It's a different story now. It's 2 base versus 2 base, and there is a quicker lair attack here from Vortix. Now, what is he going to make? Is it a Spire? Yes, it is.
It is. You called it. We're going to see how many of those Mutalisks we see here in just a bit. Gas is going up pretty much everywhere, and this Queen actually will die one-on-one to the Banshee. Hellions have not dug through the front quite yet, but a nice transfusion to save that.
And now the Hellions come in at the front, and there's only slow Link so far and only 1 Queen, so he's taking down a lot of those Zerglings. Can they hold out long enough for the Queens to rejoin the fight here, or will drones be toasted momentarily?
No, they're going to be toasted, and quite a few of them too. Oh, they're being pulled off the line. That is a slaughter, and Lucifron doing what he does best and is roasting a lot of drones. 13 have already been killed. And yes, even though our Zerg player wants to concentrate on gas, he wants to build that up to a high amount, he's not even going to have the minerals necessary to make up the total amount of Mutalisks that he would be able to produce. This is actually kind of a rough position for him.
Yeah, that's a very good point, Kevin. He will maybe only just have enough minerals for those Mutalisks, and that would only be on account of not making the drones that he really would like to be making now. And moreover, Lucifron spotted that Spire at the natural. Was it the wrong place to build the Spire? I'm not really sure. Maybe the Banshee could have seen it in the main base as well. When the Terran is that in your face, he's probably going to see all your buildings anyway, and that's going to be very useful for Lucifron to have seen.
And what did Lucifron do as soon as he saw that Spire up there? He's going over to a bio build. He's got 2 more barracks on the way, so it's Marine tank all the way for him now. Not going to go back into that mech strategy we saw before. In fact, he's doing something similar to the to the first game, though, where he's going ahead and just powering out all his barracks at about the same time.
Yeah.
But we're going to see a lot of bio forces, and it's going to be difficult for those Mutalisks to find some real traction here.
Yeah, and look at the strategical positioning of the missile turrets in the main base of Lucifron. They are positioned in the main base, 1 all the way on the right and 1 kind of in the middle-ish, and that leaves only 1 place to be defended, which is the natural, where there's also 2 missile turrets actually.
That's right. So these Mutalisks are going to have a tough time getting in, and if they delay even a little bit of being able to make their way through, then there's going to be enough of a Marine count that they're going to pose almost no threat whatsoever. Now, they still have their utility in backstabbing and in picking off siege tanks that are away from Marines and such, but Vortix would have certainly liked to do a bit more damage with those.
Yeah, and it's looking almost like a ZvT type of play from Vortix. A number of Mutalisks and then going straight into infestation pit. And well, in this case, there won't be done any damage by the Mutalisks actually, unlike in ZvT usually, where you can do some damage on the 3rd. Lucifron is completely ready because of that strong harass and seeing everything way ahead of time.
Yeah, now we saw in game number 1, Lucifron was pretty ready for what his opponent was throwing at him too, but just through more sheer will than anything else, Vortix was able to break on through and hold the counterattack with a bunch of cheap units. If he does something like that again, he's still going to be in an equitable position. And he did a nice job there picking off 2 structures. Nothing was really canceled, so he gets a little bit of a gain for them, but certainly not enough to justify the cost that he's put into those Mutalisks so far.
Yeah, not yet. But of course, their job isn't done. The #1 rule about Mutalisks is retention. Need to try and keep them for as long as possible. They will play a role in stopping drops, in scouting around, stopping the 4th, doing some nuisance here and there, and they also have a combat utility, obviously.
Yeah, that's definitely right, and you know, he's got a lot of minerals sitting around too, so I wonder what he's going to spend those on. I mean, Vortix is always great about his creep spread, and I just have to mention again, you know, we're 12 minutes, 13 minutes into the game. He's got like 8 to 10 active creep tumors at any given point in time moving, so a few of those are going to get cleared up now, but they've gotten far enough across the map that they've become a big nuisance for Lucifron.
Yeah, there we go. 6 more creep tumors being created on the left side there. Even as Lucifron stops the IO on the right side a bit, Vortix will be pushing through, and it won't be too long before he starts encroaching on that 3rd base there with the creep, unless Lucifron can somehow keep him busy.
And Lucifron's actually adding on 2 more as he loses his Hellions here in the middle of the map. He's putting on 2 more factories right now, so he's going to go into triple tank production, or he could have the option to go double tank production and throw on Thors continually into the mix. So a little bit lighter on bio than some of the players that we'll see that just add on 1, 2 tanks at a time and just power out 15 or 20 Marines at a time.
Yeah, good point. There we go with the siege up. Vortix just trying to buy time, stop that advancement of Lucifron. Oh, that's a very nice fungal growth. If he lands one more, all the Marines will die.
Ooh, very nice job. And we were talking about if you're very light on the Marine count, losing that many in one group is going to hurt you quite a bit. So Lucifron needs to rethink how hard he wants to push out in this position. He takes control of the Zone like a tower, so he can get full vision to his tanks here if he wants. He just needs to move one Marine up there. Nice job with a couple of scans to pick off a lot of creep tumors, but then again, there's a lot to be said for Vortix there. His creep spread was so good that he forces his opponent to use scans just to be able to get him back on his side of the map.
And was that a too early move out into the kind of middle of the map by Lucifron, or was it just such a good job by Vortix to recognize combat shield wasn't done yet? It's done now, but that was a very nice early fungal attack, and now Lucifron is getting more and more ready. He's not quite ready yet. He's waiting for that 2-2-1 timing, which is so typical in TvZ. He's still a little bit away from that, and maybe he should not try to push forward yet. He kind of made this mistake in the last game, and now once again getting caught on siege and no 2-2 upgrades yet.
And fungal growth caught all of those siege tanks before they were able to siege up, so they get dispatched up very quickly. And we were talking that Vortix really needed a cost-effective engagement after not being able to do any damage with his Mutalisks, and he has just found that.
Boy, has he gotten that, definitely.
All right, so he's running back now. He's got an Ultralisk Cavern on the way, so he's already moving up into really, really high tech here in a second. Adrenal glands, 3-3 upgrades, all those critical structures that he's going to need. Hasn't started a Greater Spire yet, but we can be assured that once the first couple of Ultralisks are on the way, he'll begin that as well, so he has the tech switch option available to him.
Yeah, now Vortix would love to keep this fourth base, but he's not completely invested in it. The entire infrastructure from Lucifron is revolved around producing Marines and tanks. There's no place for Marauders yet in that mix, and Lucifron hasn't gotten a kind of cost-efficient fights yet whatsoever yet. So his Marine count is very, very low, and Marines, they're not that great against Ultralisks, of which 4 are being produced right now. Adrenal Glands is about to finish, so it's just looking so great for Vortix here, and Lucifron has to make a move now.
Now, Lucifron, his real saving grace is that his macro has been very good. He's been doing a nice job of making sure that he's not missing anything on his production. Even snags an Infestor right there, which is a good little gain for him. But he's still able to put on pressure because even after losing a lot of units, his production has always been going. But now the Ultralisks are revealed, making their way up to the front, but the tank position is actually quite good. There's a nice spread on them, so they're all going to be firing at most times. The Ultralisks have already taken quite a bit of damage. There's a lot of Marines that are still behind, but it's not enough units right away. The reinforcement Marines do make their way up, though. They are going to be able to pick off the first and second of the Ultralisks, but still 2 remain here.
Yeah, 2 remain, and the 3-3 is still about to finish for Vortix. Even if he loses this base and a large portion of his army, he's going to be so strong in the remaxing. But these Ultralisks, it just looks like they will be enough already. They're such a strong mid-shield, and they do great damage once they get close in with tanks. There's nothing left here that can kill Ultralisks. Lucifron on the verge of elimination in this tournament here in IPL 5 in the loser bracket is looking like he might go down 2-0 to his younger brother here.
And you mentioned at the beginning that at the beginning of that fight that he was not set up for Marauder production. Well, he realized that about a second after seeing those Ultralisks and slapped down 4 tech labs onto his barracks at the same time, so we could start pumping out a lot of tanks, a lot of Marauders, a few Marines here and there for their added DPS, especially against those Zerglings and their mobility. But man, he's really, really got to make a big stand. And the problem is right now, he'd love to be able to go up to a 4th base, but he just has no presence on the map, and he knows that Vortix can basically attack from anywhere.
And speaking about presence, there's no time like the present for Vortix, as he has all his upgrades finished. He's getting 4 more Ultralisks for his 200 supply maxed out army. Everything is done. There's the extra armor upgrade for the Ultras is done. The 3-3 is done. Adrenal Glands is done. Banelings are coming. There's no Baneling speed yet, but I think Banelings, they're more like the cherry on the cake than really the cheese on the bread.
That's right. Those Banelings, they are going. That was a very tasty analogy. Now I'm hungry all over again. Let's see here as the Ultralisks are going to take the brunt of the damage up at the front. Now the units are coming in very slow from behind, so the tanks are actually able to get a lot of shots off on the Ultralisks. But the fungal growths have actually been pretty good so far. But the continued reinforcement of mech is just too much for Vortix to handle at the moment. He just swung in too slow with those units, and Lucifron takes a huge engagement there.
It was a fantastic spread and fight by Lucifron. He focused on all the Banelings right away with his tanks. I totally set up that fight wrong, didn't I?
Well, I think that's just a testament to how good Lucifron handled that, honestly.
That's the beauty of the game. There was just, I mean, it looked like for Vortix everything was right, but that was just beautifully done by Lucifron. He had enough Marauders already, did some really nice focus fire, and now the question is, can that capitalize into a counter attack And can he take this base down finally, as Vortix is trying to do that tech switch, trying to get those Broodlords out eventually, but he doesn't have the money yet, and he needs this base to try and get enough money for that. And
it's so late. We talked before. This base is actually going to fall, and he swings around from the side. We'll talk about that in a second. The Ultralists are heading through the front, but again, they're coming through so slow before the Infestors can get their pin units in position. So the Ultralists, even though they have taken out the left side of the tanks, isn't enough to rally back against the rest of the forces as they're slowly but surely getting whittled down. Lucifron not actually reinforcing with anything over the course of the fight, and he will lose his army. He takes out the 4th base, but now Lucifron has established his own 4th down in the bottom left-hand corner. We mentioned before, though, we said that Lucifron was not prepared to switch into Marauders. He was not ready for Ultralisks. And for the first engagement, he wasn't. But for the second one, he is now. Yeah. And this Broodlord change is coming so late.
Yeah, it's coming so late. There are no Corruptors on the field yet. So even though he has that Greater Spire finished, Corruptors, Broodlords, there are no upgrades on it yet. There are no Corruptors. He just lost his 4th. He's got to try and mine his 5th, now 4th. He does have enough drones, 76 drones, so that's going to be enough. But once again, just from denying this base, then going to pick up, and that means that Zerglings can't catch him. And he knows Infestors can't have caught up yet with these medivacs here. So looking pretty nice here for Lucifron. Doesn't seem like he knows about the Greater Spire change yet, as he's still making Marauders. But it could also just be that he has a very excellent awareness of how, let's say, tight Vortix's economic situation is right now.
Yeah, that's a good point too, because in the last game we saw as soon as he got a glimpse of Broodlords, he immediately went up to 4 starports. Like he just started throwing them down right away. But now he feels confident enough to continue pushing up, and I think you're exactly right. He knows the economic situation of his brother, and for now you can see that they're actually quite close in economy. That's because Vortix just started getting a brand new investment back into his resources with this base coming up in the top left. But now it's under siege.
Oh, nice Infestor snipe there, gets away unscathed. But as you said, even one Broodlord is a very powerful resource in situations like this. You said last game, how about 7 Broodlords? There are no Vikings on the field, and it's very hard for those Marines to get in close. So even as it was looking good for Lucifron, was he able to capitalize enough on it, or is now Vortix going to be able to grasp back the clutches of that victory from Lucifron here?
He may very well be able to do it with this push. Those Broodlords are starting to bear down on the siege tanks, and Lucifron is not going to be happy to see this. He stims up a bunch of Marines. He doesn't even pick off one of the Broodlords, and they immediately all get smashed. Now, unfortunately, the Ultros obviously can't move forward, but again, this is what we talked about. His 2 Broodlords do end up falling there, but just a couple of Broodlords in the air is enough to start pushing this position back, and Lucifron is falling back once again. Is he making any air units? Yes, he's going up to 2 more starports. He's double producing Vikings right now. That leaves him with no medevacs in the air for his bio, though, and a bunch of dead factories that aren't really doing anything.
Yeah, and it's one thing to kill the Ultralists and then be at a loss on how to kill the Broodlords. It's another to have both Broodlords and Ultralists on the field. That's a real nightmarish situation for Terran. And it's nice that Lucifron is able to draw Vortix to the right side here, because if those Ultralists took a stab at that Planetary Fortress, it would already have gone down here on the left.
All right, well, the Planetary Fortress is still under considerable fire, and even though the medevacs are being chased down, there's still enough firepower up here before the Vikings actually get in position that this Planetary Fortress may fall despite Lucifron's best efforts. Oh, all of his tanks get fungled. They're being shot down very quickly. The Vikings are not able to rally in time, and even if they do, there's still 5 Corruptors in the air that are waiting for them.
Yeah, it looks like Vortix is holding all the cards here in this game. The Planetary Fortress goes down, as will the, as will no SCVs. But what good are the SCVs if he doesn't have a place to mine them from? That's really the quandary here for Lucifron.
That's right. And Vortix knows that a base went down on the top right for him, so he's already sent all of his Zerglings back to go ahead and defend against this drop. And look at that, Lucifron can't do anything there. So now there's a base that's basically mining free. There's enough Vikings here that they can start making a stand, but Fungal Growth pick off all those forces. There's GG. Lucifron is eliminated. Vortix moves on 2-0.
By the skin of his teeth, Vortix takes back this game. Very resiliently played by him. Of course, there's no any kind of fist bump or whatsoever. It's always a bittersweet feeling to defeat your brother on the competitive field. I'm sure, obviously, they've both felt this feeling before, and I can just probably say that Vortix is making an inner resolution now, a promise to himself to make this worth it. Because I'm sure between the both of them, whoever passes, they would say, hey, at least make it good. right? Like, do your best, go as far as possible, and you know that Lucifron is just hoping that for his brother no matter what.
Exactly, and despite, I'm sure Lucifron's a bit disappointed so far in this tournament, but he's happy for his brother, and he'll be cheering for him the whole way. So congratulations there to Vortix, 2-0ing his brother Lucifron, and that wraps up that match, and another chapter, I guess, in the history of the Kontakte Esports Club brothers.
Yeah, and at home, their third brother is at home. Yes! Oh!
That's right. The Kontakte Esports Club guys are actually totally awesome. They're really mannered. They're really cool. I remember I was actually in Valencia and got to meet them all. And at the time, we couldn't be spoiled on any results, of course, for IPTL that was going on at the time. And their brother, their manager, was with them. And so he was like, we can't tell you any of these. Then one person from Vortix came up and he was like, Kevin, did you hear we beat Empire? And I was like, oh, no. And his brother just got red in the face. He was like, why did you do that? Then Lucifron would run up later on like, Kevin, did you hear we beat this person too? I don't know. It looked like a bad vaudeville act for a while as his brother was just stamping around like, no! Looks like
control his younger brothers.
I don't know if you just saw, but look what just popped up on our monitor. Our next match, it's going to be a ZvZ, ladies and gentlemen. It's Startail Life versus FXO Lenok.
A rematch of the grand finals of the latest MLG. Both are so good at ZvZ, and for them to meet already in round 3, I think it is, of the open winner bracket.